My name is Claire Thompson. I'm 54 years old, a widow for nearly 5 years, living alone in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. My days are predictable: work at the bookstore in town, quiet dinners, and weekends spent tending my small garden. The one bright spot in this routine was the young man who mowed my lawn every week, Jason. He was just 18 when he first started, shy but polite, always showing up on Saturday mornings without fail. Over time, I noticed the way he worked meticulously, as if mowing my lawn wasn't just a job but a point of pride. Jason wasn't like the other teenagers in the neighborhood. He didn't blast music from his truck or rush through the job. Instead, he took his time, humming softly, carefully trimming the edges, making sure every blade of grass stood tall and neat. At first I thought it was just good work ethic, but then I started to look forward to his visits. Not because I loved the lawn being perfect, I did, but because of him. We never really talked much, just a few polite words exchanged. I'd offer him water or lemonade, and he'd smile, quietly accepting. I never asked why he chose my house every week. I never asked what he wanted. One warm afternoon, I caught Jason sitting on my porch steps, wiping sweat from his brow. I offered him a cold glass of lemonade. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," he said, his voice low and steady. "You can call me Claire," I smiled, realizing I'd never asked his name either. He hesitated, then said, "Jason." We sat quietly the summer, breeze rustling through the trees. It was the first real conversation we'd had beyond work and pleasantries. As the weeks went by, Jason and I started sharing snippets of our lives. He told me about his mother, who was sick and unable to work. How he took the lawn mowing job to help pay the bills. I told him about my late husband, Mark, who had passed suddenly from a heart attack. How lonely the house had been since. Our stories created a fragile bridge between us, built with quiet understanding. One day, after finishing the lawn, Jason lingered longer than usual. "I noticed your garden looks nice," he said, glancing toward the flower beds. "Thank you," I replied. "It's my little escape." He nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe I could help you with it sometime." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread inside me. I'd like that. That simple offer marked the beginning of something unexpected. Jason's visits became more than just mowing. He helped plant new flowers, watered the garden during dry spells, and even fixed the broken fence. Each act of kindness chipped away the walls I'd built around my heart, but still, I never asked what he really wanted. One late summer evening, Jason and I sat on the porch after finishing the work, watching the sunset paint the sky. "I'm glad you didn't give up on me," I said quietly. He looked at me, eyes shining with something deeper than gratitude. "I didn't give up on you," he said softly. "I was waiting for you to see me." His words caught me off guard. For the first time, I saw the boy behind the mower, the young man who wanted more than just to cut grass. I realized then that Jason's kindness wasn't just about helping me. It was his way of reaching out, hoping to be noticed, to be seen. I hadn't asked, I hadn't really listened. And now, everything was about to change. After that evening on the porch, things between Jason and me shifted slowly but surely. The distance that had existed before began to dissolve, replaced by a fragile connection neither of us knew how to name. Over the next few weeks, Jason started coming over not only to mow the lawn, but to spend time helping with the garden, fixing things around the house, and sometimes just sitting with me in quiet company. His presence filled a space I didn't realize was empty until he arrived. One rainy Saturday, as he was trimming the rose bushes, I watched his hands carefully prune each stem. The concentration on his face was almost tender, like he was doing more than just gardening. "Jason," I said softly, "why do you care so much about my garden?" He paused, then looked up at me with honest eyes. "Because it's like you. It's beautiful, but it needs care. Someone to see it, to nurture it." His words caught me off guard. Was he saying I needed nurturing? The thought both scared and comforted me. Later that day, as the rain softened to a drizzle, we sat inside by the fireplace, the room warm and cozy. Jason stirred his hot chocolate thoughtfully. "I never really told you why I started coming here," he said, voice barely above a whisper. I leaned closer, curious. "My mom got sick a few years ago," he began. I dropped out of school to take care of her, to help with bills. Mowing lawns was just one way to keep us afloat. He swallowed hard. I guess I also wanted to find something steady, something I could be good at. Listening to him, I felt a sudden surge of protectiveness. Here was this young man, carrying so much on his shoulders, yet still offering kindness so freely. Jason, I said gently, you've been carrying all that alone. He nodded. Yeah, but now, I don't want to be alone anymore. That night I lay awake thinking about everything he'd shared. The loneliness, the responsibility, and beneath it all, a yearning for connection that mirrored my own. For years, I'd hidden behind routines and grief, too afraid to reach out. And here was Jason quietly waiting, hoping I'd notice. In the days that followed, we started to open up more. Jason talked about his dreams going back to school, building a life beyond mowing lawns. I shared stories about my youth, my late husband, and the moments that shaped me. Our conversations were a balm, each word a stitch mending wounds we hadn't dared to face alone. One afternoon, as we painted the fence together, Jason suddenly stopped, paintbrush in hand. Claire, he said hesitantly, have you ever thought about us? Not just as neighbors, but something more. My heart skipped. The question lingered in the air, heavy with hope and fear. I admitted, I've been so afraid of what people would think. Jason smiled gently. Let them think. We know what's real. That evening, after he left, I stared at the freshly painted fence. His words echoed in my mind. Could I let go of fear? Could I open myself to love again, even if it meant breaking every rule I thought mattered? As the weeks passed, we grew closer, sharing stolen moments, laughs over dinner, quiet walks under starlit skies, and tender touches that spoke volumes. But the world outside was not always kind. One morning I found a note tucked under my door. Harsh words about our age difference, warnings of scandal and gossip. The pain of judgment cut deep. Jason stood by my side unwavering. We can face it, he said. Together, with renewed strength, we decided to confront the whispers head on. We hosted a small gathering at my home, inviting friends and neighbors to see the truth of our bond. Some came with skepticism, others with open hearts. Jason spoke with quiet courage, sharing his story, his hopes, and his love for me. The night ended with warm embraces and tentative smiles. Change was slow, but it had begun. As I closed my eyes that night, I finally understood what Jason really wanted, not just to mow a lawn, but to be seen, loved, and accepted. And for the first time in years, I felt ready to give that to him. The morning sunlight filtered through the curtains as I woke up, feeling different, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. Jason's words, his courage, had given me something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Our small gathering from the night before still echoed in my mind. Some neighbors had shown kindness, others hesitation. But the fact that we'd faced them together made me believe we could overcome anything. That Saturday, as usual, Jason arrived to mow the lawn, but today, there was something in his step, a quiet confidence. Morning, Claire, he said with a smile that made my heart flutter. Morning, Jason, I replied, offering him a glass of lemonade as he worked. I watched him closely. The way he moved was more than just a chore. It was a ritual, a dance of care and precision. But beneath it, I saw the man who had fought so hard to keep going. When he finished, we sat on the porch, sipping lemonade in companionable silence. Have you ever thought about going back to school? I asked him gently. Jason's eyes grew distant. Every day, I want to study engineering, build something meaningful. Then you should, I encouraged. You deserve that chance. He smiled, but there was a shadow in his eyes. It's hard when you're the only one supporting your family. I reached out and placed a hand on his. Let me help. The words surprised me as much as them surprised him, but I meant them. Jason had given me so much hope, laughter, companionship. I wanted to give back. Over the next few weeks, we made a plan. I helped Jason apply for scholarships and found local programs that offered support. We worked together on his applications, late into the evenings, sometimes laughing at his nervousness, other times wiping tears of frustration. Jason's determination inspired me. and his presence filled a space I hadn't realized was empty. For so long, our relationship deepened, but not without challenges. One afternoon, as we walked through the local park, an elderly woman stopped us. "You shouldn't be seen together," she whispered harshly. "It's unnatural." Jason's jaw clenched, but I squeezed his hand. "Let them talk," I said firmly. "We know the truth." That night, Jason confessed his fears. What if they never accept us? What if it's always this way? I pulled him close. "Then we'll make our own family, our own world." His eyes searched mine, vulnerability shining through. "Do you really mean that?" "Every word," I promised. But even with our resolve, the whispers in the neighborhood grew louder. One morning, I found my mailbox, vandalized hate-filled notes, accusations, threats. I wanted to hide, to give up, but Jason stood by me, fierce and protective. "We'll face this together," he said, voice steady. We started attending community meetings, speaking out against the hate. We found allies, people who believed in love beyond age or judgment. Slowly, the tides began to turn. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset, Jason took my hand. "Claire, I know this isn't easy, but I want to build a future with you. No matter what anyone says." Tears welled up in my eyes. "I want that too." We sealed our promise with a quiet kiss, the world falling away around us. Months passed, and Jason started school, balancing classes, work, and our growing bond. I found joy in seeing him thrive, proud of the young man he was becoming. Our love wasn't perfect, there were misunderstandings, fears, moments of doubt, but it was real. One afternoon, as Jason helped me plant new flowers, he paused. "Claire, thank you for seeing me. Not just the boy who mowed your lawn, but me." I smiled, brushing a stray hair from his forehead. "I never stopped seeing you." And in that moment, I knew we were exactly where we were meant to be. The seasons changed, and with them, our lives transformed in ways I never imagined possible. Jason had settled into college life, balancing his studies and work with remarkable grit. I watched him grow, not just into the man I loved, but into the person he had always hoped to become. Our relationship had survived whispers, judgment, and fear. What once seemed impossible now felt like the foundation of a new beginning. One crisp autumn afternoon, Jason and I took a walk through the park where we had first faced those harsh words together. The leaves crunched beneath our feet, a symphony of reds and golds, celebrating the change in the air. We found a quiet bench and sat close, the warmth of his hand in mine a comforting anchor. "Claire," he said softly, "I want you to know how much you've changed my life." I smiled, feeling a tear slip down my cheek. "You've changed mine too, Jason. More than you could ever know." He turned to face me, eyes shining with emotion. "Will you keep walking this path with me, no matter what comes?" "I will," I whispered. "Always." Our love, once fragile and hidden, was now a bold truth we shared openly. Family and friends who mattered had embraced us, and even some neighbors who once doubted now nodded with acceptance. Yet beyond the community, we knew challenges remained, but we faced them together, stronger and more certain than ever. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, Jason pulled out a small box from his pocket. "Claire," he began, his voice steady but tender, "you've given me hope, love, and a future I never dreamed possible. Will you marry me?" Shock and joy overwhelmed me. Tears spilled freely as I nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, Jason. 1,000 times yes." The following months were filled with planning and laughter, blending our worlds in ways that celebrated both our pasts and our future. Our wedding was small but perfect, a gathering of those who loved us, surrounded by flowers Jason had helped plant in my garden. As we exchanged vows, I looked into Jason's eyes and saw not just a young man who mowed my lawn, but my partner, my confidant, my love. We promised to walk through life side by side, no matter what storms came our way. Life after the wedding was a joyful adventure. We supported each other through studies, work, and the everyday challenges that life threw at us. Jason continued to excel in school, fueled by the dreams we nurtured together. And I found new purpose in our shared journey, grateful for the unexpected love that had blossomed from a simple act of kindness. One summer day, As we sat in our garden surrounded by blooming flowers, Jason squeezed my hand. Thank you for giving me a chance, for seeing me beyond the lawnmower. I laughed softly. And thank you for teaching me to see again. Our story wasn't conventional, and it certainly wasn't easy, but it was ours, a testament to the power of love, courage, and the willingness to embrace the unexpected. As I watched Jason mow the lawn, one lazy afternoon, I smile, knowing that what he wanted wasn't just to cut the grass. He wanted to be seen, loved, and understood. And I was grateful every day that I finally asked.